There we go. Okay. Good morning. Thank you all for coming. This is the November 6th meeting of Erace. Welcome everybody. I'm going to start off by reading the mission statement. Erace is the slogan of the group Erace, which was formed in New Orleans in the summer of 1993. We seek ways through person-to-person communication to show that we are committed to treating fellow human beings of all colors with love and respect. Join us. Okay, my name is Nancy, and I have been coming to Erace meetings since June of 2007. Sorry, so it's been 14 years. So I'm going to go around and have everyone introduce themselves, okay? But I see a few people are missing, but that's okay. Marion, if you would introduce yourself.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Marion Lagarde here in wonderful New Orleans. I began attending the Erace meetings in June of 1993. And I have found that I really get a lot out of the meetings when I attend and also when I participate. And it's great to see everybody this morning.
Okay, thank you, Marion. Bill, unmute yourself.
I'm Bill Ives, and Cindy and I have been coming to Erace for about maybe 4 years now. And I always learn something new every time. That's always happened.
Okay, thank you. Marva.
Excuse me.
Marva, can you unmute and introduce yourself?
It takes a couple of energy and deep breaths for my ambulation. Good morning. I got the booster yesterday. I'm feeling out of sorts. Good morning, attending this post Katrina, and I enjoy waking up Saturday morning to participate in the group discussions. I always find it interesting. Thank you.
Thank you, Marva. Phyllis.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Phyllis. I've been attending Erace since 2008, and I always enjoy the discussion.
Thank you. Lynn.
Good morning, my friends. I'm Lynn Frank, speaking to you from New Orleans. I've been a member since 2019, the summer of 2019. I like getting together with people who have good, heartfelt humanitarian values. It gives me hope for the world.
I've got that other video from earlier in the background.
Thank you. Go ahead.
And also, it causes me to reflect on the issues of the day. And so it's doubly wonderful to be here with you this morning.
Thank you, Lynn. Jenny?
Hi, this is my second meeting and I live in Austin, Texas. So last week was especially relevant given that it was about Texas. And Marion, I doubt you remember me. I came to New Orleans, I don't even know how many years ago. You know, I always have to double what I think. And we went out to lunch and do you remember? It's probably been 15, I don't know. But anyway, it's good to see you. You're muted, sweetie.
And you as well. I'm telling you, my memory is slipping.
Don't worry.
I should stop saying that because I'm putting that out in the universe.
No, it's fine. I wouldn't
triggered a
expect.
memory. That is just
Okay,
fabulous.
wonderful. Thank you, Jenny. Kate?
Good morning. I'm Kate Robinson coming to you from Northern Kentucky via New Orleans. I grew up in New Orleans and I've been attending Erace meetings. This is my first year and I always learn something new every time. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Kate. Pedro?
Yes, good morning. I'm here in Austin, Texas, and been coming to the Erace meetings a little over a year now, I think. And I just have the same sentiments that Lynn expressed. It's just really a great experience to be around people that try to critically think through things. And so glad to be here.
Thank you, Pedro. Glenn?
Glenn Abdullah from New Orleans. Been coming to Erace since 1994. Glad to be with you this morning.
Thank you, Glenn. Greer?
Griff had to step up for a
Had to
minute.
step away? Okay,
She greets everyone good morning and looking forward to the discussion.
thank you. Okay, I have a few housekeeping rules. One is starting off with a Zoom. There is a mute button. We ask that everyone mute themselves unless they're speaking. There's also a stop video button, which you can, stop the video for your screen. There is a chat box where you can put comments in the chat box. And then there's a participant button, which allows you to see who's in the meeting. You can also change your screen name in that participants icon. Okay, our Erace meeting housekeeping rules is that you raise one finger to get on the list. You speak in order of the list. Try to keep your comments to 2 minutes. You respect and don't interrupt the speaker. No side comments to others, no personal attacks, no name calling. Okay, the point of the discussion is to listen and learn and not to argue. We have clarifying questions. If you have a clarifying questions, you put up 2 fingers of the speaker. You put 2 fingers up, kind of wave it around so that we can see it. A clarifying question is, I didn't understand what you meant when you said whatever, or could you explain further what you meant when you said whatever, okay? 15 minutes before the end, we will have a wrap up for final thoughts. It can be 30 seconds to a minute. If you haven't spoken during the discussion, you can take a full 2 minutes, and it's okay to pass if you don't have a final topic. Okay, the reason that I chose this topic, and also I wanted to say, has everyone been able to listen to the broadcast? Because it wasn't actually an article to read, it was, you listened to it. So if you haven't listened to it, I was going to ask Phyllis to play it. It's only like about 5 minutes, but everyone has listened to it. Okay.
Nancy,
Mhm.
I think you're right. I mean, I listened to it, but it certainly wouldn't hurt to listen to it again. I mean,
Okay, yeah, it's only like 5 minutes. But I brought it because there was another article about the judge's comments about intentional discrimination in the selection of the jury. But I thought this particular article talked more about the consequences of the selection of the jury and how people tend to vote, how certain demographics tend to vote in their deliberations. And so I thought that just appealed to me more. So Phyllis, are you able to pull it up?
Yeah, I opened it up. Let me see. How do I share my screen, Nancy?
Okay, at the bottom or
Yeah.
wherever, there's a share screen.
Oh, I see it. Okay, got it.
Okay, and you click on the share screen, and then you should be able to pull up that article and select the yeah. And then yeah, there you go. And the sound. Sound. Oh, I can't do it. You would have to make sure the sound is up. Can you hear it? Because I can't hear it.
I can hear it. Could anybody else hear it? I've
No.
paused it now.
No, I think what you have to have a capacity, and it might have to come from you, Nancy, I'm not sure, but you have to share the sound. There's a sound button that you slide over.
Okay, let me
Otherwise, all we're seeing is the video.
go. So I'm sharing because I'm the
Right.
host,
Right.
but let me see if I can
You-
come back to the Zoom meeting and
Yeah, when you go to share screen, I think there should be, if it's like Microsoft Teams or something like that, there should be an option to move the,
sound. There's a little like speaker over there on the right-hand side.
right.
Uh,
Should be in there.
It's not necessary to do that. If Phyllis has her audio on and she
do.
just plays it, we don't need to see the screen because it's
Well-
all audio. So I would suggest we go back to the other mode. You don't need to do screen share. Because
Okay.
if you have your audio on, we can hear it.
Good idea, Bill.
give me a minute, y'all. Trying to get
Bill,
out
I'm
of
not
this.
in.
What, Cindy?
Never mind.
Okay.
What I did was, hey, good morning, everybody, I'm back. What I did was I looked for another article. They actually have it printed out, everything that they said.
Oh, a transcription. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
Gigi, can you put that in the chat, the link?
Okay, so at my microphone, I should be.
Can you
seeing-
hear it?
I'm not playing it right now.
I'm playing it.
Oh, no, we can't hear it. But in my speaker, is that where I?
Can you hear it?
Yeah, not very well. It's bad quality.
Choppy.
You can't hear it?
It's bad quality. Cannot understand it.
Really?
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 So I don't know, maybe let me see. Audio settings.
Is it bad quality for everybody?
Yes.
Yes.
I don't see a way to do what Pedro was talking about.
Okay, well,
Okay, we'll just have to talk about it.
we just talked about it. Yeah, really. That's all we can do. Okay, so anyway, back to the meeting. I brought this article because, well, there are two trials going on right now that are of national interest. One is Kyle Rittenhouse, and the other one is this one, the Ahmaud Arbery trial. And in both trials, Kyle Rittenhouse, you cannot refer to the victims as victims, can only refer to them as looters. And in this trial, the jury is 11 white jurors and 1 Black male juror. And I don't know the male to female makeup of the other 11 jurors, but I think that it's just interesting how these parameters have been put in place for both of these trials, and I think it's. I mean, even the judge said there was intentional discrimination in the jury selection, and he did nothing about it. And so I just felt that that one was more pressing to talk about. So that's why I brought it. But anyway, the list is open. Marion.
Let me just say right off the bat, I am really PO'd. I'll be polite, and you all know what I mean.
Marva.
This is a slap in the face of that poor woman who lost her son. And I saw some comments online that said that the selection of the jury was not unconstitutional. And I can't see that. I don't know anything about the constitutional law, but it seems to me, couldn't the attorney have objected and brought up some kind of statute to not to have allowed this to happen? And I think every one of us in this Zoom meeting knows how it's going to go. And I'm going to say it. I'm not going to bite my tongue because I already said, I hope they all rot in hell if they excuse those people, don't and let them get away with murder, because the murder of that young man was unnecessary. And for those 2 men to have approached that young man and have that situation end up with his death is just inexcusable. And I hope they all rot in hell. If they get off, they don't serve any kind of jail time. May they rot in hell for all eternity.
Okay, thank you, Marion. I have Marva and then Phyllis.
Put me on, Nancy.
You
Okay,
Miss
and
Glenn.
then Greer. And anyone else?
Miss Glenn.
Lynn.
No, me, Glenn.
Lynn had her hand up too. So, okay, we have, and Glenn. All right, let me read this off. Marva,
And put me
Phyllis.
ahead of Greer.
Huh?
Put me ahead of Greer. I had my hand up before her.
Getting all kind of privileges here. All right, Marva, Phyllis, Glenn, Greer, and Lynn. Anybody else? And Bill. All right, Bill, Marva.
I wonder what kind of climate the jurors would have of one Black intimidated juror, 11 really racist. And I would think they would ask questions about how they feel about racism before they pick the juror. I don't know if that's out of the realm of law for picking the jury. I would constantly ask how the atmosphere was for the black man, and to make sure he was comfortable, and provided his guilty or not guilty verdict, and not being pressured. I don't know if he's will worry about his safety or his family's safety with the guilty or not guilty verdict. Thank you.
Thank you. Phyllis.
I just wanted to say that, oh my gosh, Amal is coming into the Zoom meeting. That's one thing. Second, that, and I saw a meme that reflected this, that it's often in the media called the Ahmaud Arbery trial, but he's not on trial. The men on trial are Brian and McMichael. And I think we should remember to not make it sound like the person who was killed is the person on trial. That's all for now.
All right, thank you. Glenn?
First of all, we shouldn't assume because they have 11 white jurors that they're going to let this man go. They're going to let these guys go. Now, if it was back in the 50s and a white person bummed a church in Alabama where little girls were killed, well, that all white jury would definitely let those white folk get off. But we living in a different day and time where I have seen in New Orleans, policemen went to jail for what they did on the Zane Lizard Bridge. And I've seen, we just seen this guy who choked to death someone, the jury convicted it. Now we're also living in a time where we got Trumpism going on, where people are given the a sense that it's okay to be a racist. So we just have to wait and see what how it's going to turn out. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Rhea.
When I looking at the story, see what was going on when the judge, what he said, basing it on actually the law allows. So this right here, in terms of jury picking, it was actually allowed by law. But do I think it's necessarily right or wrong? I don't know, because, and I'm gonna have to agree with my uncle, I don't know if those white people they picked were bad people. I'm not saying good people either. But right now, I don't know. It's a shame that we have to be like this. And I remember serving jury duty, and I remember them talking about me, and they were like, "Yeah, we're gonna keep her." Oh, I kid you not, I had jury duty for 2 because when I was in college, I couldn't do jury duty. But when I got the summertime break, that's when they scooped me up. I did 2 weeks and I was on 7 trials. Everybody's trying to win, the prosecution and the defense, and they're going to try and swing away. We don't know if some of these people were part of the prosecution that were white. They might have picked them to say, "Hey, I think this will be the one who'll be on our side." That's all I got to say.
Okay, thank you, Greer. We have Lynn and then Bill. Anyone else? Jean? Okay, Lynn?
I think the concept of the peremptory challenge should come to an end. And I noticed in another article that Arizona has done away with it, and other states limit it to 3 per side. In this jury, they had, I think, 12 or 22 peremptory no, 12 peremptory challenges, and some states have as many as 22. And so you can start trying to race balance under those circumstances. The proof that the defense attorneys were motivated by race is that some of the white people said, and I'll quote you because I saw it in an article. Juror 79 said she thinks a lot of time blacks, the police profile blacks. And juror 195 told the court that she believed race played a factor in his death. And juror 579 maybe had big, long discussions with her husband about the case. But none of those people were struck by the defense attorneys, even though they were white. And when black people said similar things, they were struck. So that gives us some hope that this jury is going to hear the case fairly. But the peremptory challenge thing is very troubling, and especially since you cannot have a conviction without a unanimous jury. So it just takes two racist jurors to upset the whole process. But as Glenn and Greer have said, we'll have to see how this plays out. But I would, and each state makes its own rules for jury selection and peremptory challenges. And I do think the states should start thinking about getting rid of almost all of the peremptory challenges, maybe just 2 or 3 left, but not any excessive number.
All right, thank you. Hey, you're right on time. Pedro has a clarifying question.
All right, yeah, well, my question is can you further explain, like, the peremptory challenges? My understanding was that each side, the prosecutor and the defense attorney, had a very limited number of challenges. So, or eliminations, that type of thing. You're saying that each state has different rules. Do you know what North Carolina's is? And that's my question.
I think they had 12 peremptory challenges in North Carolina. But some states have as few as 3, and some states have, Arizona has done away with it completely. And a peremptory challenge is you can strike any person from the jury for any reason at all and not explain yourself, except if it's race or gender or religion, then you might have to defend yourself. But a lot of defense attorneys have manuals that say, here's a list of racially neutral reasons you can give when you strike those black people from your jury. So we know that it's not an ideal process.
Yeah, so my follow-up question then would be, the jury pool, for instance, if you got 12 strikes, the jury pool itself, how big is that for that trial, would you imagine, if you don't know for sure?
Pedro, would you like to get on the list?
Well, that is a question, but
She wouldn't know that.
I do know that the prosecution struck 11 white people from the jury pool, but I don't recall how many people were in the pool to start with.
Okay. We have Bill and then Jean. Anybody else?
I'll get back on, Nancy.
Okay, and Kate, do you want to get on the list? You have a question? Okay.
I just have a clarifying comment because I read an article that said that the defense had 24 peremptory challenges and the prosecution had 12.
Okay. So that's, you just wanted to make that comment. Okay. We have Bill and then Jean.
Thank you, Kate.
And then Greer. Anyone else? Okay, Bill?
My understanding is that the defense said that the jury was prejudiced. I mean, not the defense, the prosecution. And they wanted a new jury. I could have misheard that, but someone made an important point that it only takes one, because you have to have it unanimous. And several years ago, Louisiana did not have a unanimous requirement, and that was put in place for racist reasons, so that in this case, there's one Black juror that in the old law in Louisiana, if 11 people voted to acquit and the one Black juror voted to convict, that would stand. And we had an amendment, and I remember voting on it for this reason. We had an amendment to the Constitution requiring unanimous decisions, because the thing that was put in allowing for majority rule was to avoid having one Black juror vote to acquit someone. It was for racist reasons to overcome that. It may be that they can't get away with, it's likely to be a hung jury, in my opinion, because anyway, I think I've said enough.
You still had 15 seconds left.
Okay. I yield my 15 seconds back to the speaker.
Okay. We have Jean, Greer, and then Glenn.
Actually, Lynn addressed all the issues that I had with respect to the peremptory challenges. You know, they should be done away with, but that's it.
Okay. Greer.
By no fact, I believe that the justice system is just. I think it's more about money and who has the have money, because I don't know who these people are who are defending gentlemen who did this. Do we know their background? Do we know how much money was a GoFundMe set up for these men to protect them by white supremacists? We don't know this, but we know there's a history of the poor or the underserved or the minority going to jail because they don't have the best defense. Mind you, Ahmaud Arbery is dead, but at the same time, trying to get justice for him, even posthumously. But I'm praying that this will be done justly. Well, I believe it will. No, but all we have is hope at this point until there is judicial reform. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Pedro and Beatrice. So we have Glenn, Pedro, and Beatrice. Okay, Glenn.
Just because I hear a kickback, an echo sound. Y'all hear that? Okay. Anyway, just because you have a Black person on the jury doesn't mean that he's going to vote the way you think he's going to vote. You think he's going to vote, in this particular case, that he may vote to set these men free. You never know how he's going to vote. I'm so surprised when I see somebody at a Trump rally holding up a sign, "Blacks for Trump." So you don't know how a Black person, just you going with skin color. You don't know what kind of mind they have. And also I know if I was gonna be on this jury, I'm going to be prejudiced already from what I saw. I already find them guilty already. And that's that's the human factor here. You all were a witness to it on video. You were an actual witness. So you're going to testify in your mind, what you seen on camera, you gonna already hold them guilty. And you're not supposed to be picked if you ain't already made up your mind that they're guilty. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Pedro.
Yeah, I think the context of to examine this article and audio for me is that if we have systemic racism, okay, then the system itself, this would be just another, or not just another, it has its own characteristics of systemic racism. And I've shared these statistics before, but I think they're really instructive. So I'm going to share them again, that in 1984 with the LA Times article, Gray Areas and Colorblind Justice, they said the taking of a black life, even by another black, was 1/10 as likely to be punished by death as taking a white one. Yet a black who took a white life was 5 times as likely to receive the death penalty as a white committing the same offense. And the other was the 88 study that in Dallas County here in Texas that discovered that Dallas County criminal justice system more severely punishes killers and rapists whose victims are white than those that are black or Hispanic. And then went on to say that, you know, the rape of a white woman received a median term of 10 years, while if the victim was Hispanic, it was 5 years. And if it was a black woman, it was only 2 years. So in the context of that, and in the context of being able to, as someone's already mentioned, I think it was Gigi, if you want a jury trial, you are going to have to pay your attorney more money because it's more work. And so unless it's a court-appointed attorney, there's a tendency to accept plea bargains, even though you may want to promote your right to have a jury trial. It just costs more and those types of things. So with all that being said, I think surely we can have faith that there's going to be a fair deal outcome from this jury. But I think if you look at the whole context of this, the chances are that it will not. It will be the opposite, like it's been for all these other trials that we have historically witnessed over the last few years. Thank you.
Thank you, Pedro. We have Beatrice, and then the list is open.
Okay, pardon my tardiness. I was concerned that the judge said that the striking of the African Americans seemed to have been discriminatory, but that, oh, I'm sorry, am I muted? No, okay. That seemed to have been discriminatory, but that couldn't do anything about it because the rationale that was given for the peremptory strikes was non-racial, and that, you know, that is just, that's really concerning. The other thing is that as I listened to the opening statements of the lawyers, the defense, this defense of making a citizen's arrest because it was the assumption that something had been done illegal by this person, and that that it was self-defense. It is, on the face of it, it is absolutely ridiculous. An unarmed citizen who is going about his business, jogging, becomes a threat because he looks like what might have been someone who may have robbed something, who may have done something dishonest. He doesn't have anything on him, any contraband that he might. I read an article by Eugene Robinson in Washington Post editorials online, and he said, imagine if a white man running through a black neighborhood had been chased by 3 people with a shotgun. And, you know, the case would be closed. I mean, there would be no issue. It is phenomenal. It is just, on the face of it, it defies reason. But this case is going to be made. And of course, it was after the Ahmaud Arbery situation that the Georgia legislature has changed this citizen's arrest foolishness, that you have a right to, you know, detain someone, arrest someone because you think they have done something wrong, not that they are in the act of doing anything wrong. This was changed. But even before that, our Governor Shotgun, said that this case showed that this man was a victim of vigilante justice. That might not have been his words. This case is going to be very troubling in terms of its outcome. It is going to, it will break my heart if they let these 3 men go. You know, okay, I'm done. Okay.
All right, thank you, Beatrice. Okay, we have Greer and then Bill, and then the list is open. Greer?
Yeah, I'm here. The one place that we are considered equals in the world is when someone Black is standing in front of a jury of his so-called peers. That's the only time when you want to potentially take away my freedom, then I'm equal in the world to everyone else. And I'm talking in terms of the United States. And the justice system has been rigged against people of color, and I'm going to go with African Americans mainly, because when slavery ended, our labor was free. But with convict leasing, vagrancy laws, they found a way to monetize our existence. You put me in and you can sell my labor. Like Article 1 states that you can lose your freedom, even though slavery was ended, you can lose your freedom due to punitive damages for crime committed. So if we're looking at the end of that standing here today, you have supermax prisons where others benefit off of them. You have cottage industry created off the backs of putting people in prison. Scrubs are made by prisoners. Idaho potatoes are picked by prisoners. Computer components for computers are done by prisoners. Furniture that is put together is done by prisoners at a slave's wage. They may get 10, 20 cents an hour. You have order can only be used in prisons, televisions that are clear. So look at this. If you've monetized the person's existence from cradle to grave, the school pipeline to prison, the way they even serve the food on a tray, those trays looks exactly like those schools, the way they march you down hallways, they're marching you just like they march prisoners. So they're even in getting a free education, your education to be able to function in prison if you're basically going to a public school that's not magnet status. That's it.
You want to get back? Oh, that's it? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. I have Bill and then Cheryl.
I've seen some analysis of this, and it's frightening that if they don't convict these guys, they're sanctioning vigilante justice. And this was clearly a modern lynching, but there are laws that are increasingly promoting vigilante justice. Texas law against abortion is an example where, to get around the legal status, the state isn't going after people who disobey the law. They're allowing private citizens to sue the person for $10,000. And so there's just a scary rise. There are many states, someone at a protest drove their vehicle in and killed someone, and they got off because there's a law in a number of states that protects people who drive their vehicles into protesters. And the law is not protecting the protesters, it's protecting the killers who kill them with their vehicles. And it's just, the whole country is just going downhill. And this is just one example of how we are going backwards in time if these guys get off, and sets a dangerous precedent. I will say, if I have a couple of minutes, it was interesting to hear the statistics by the professor that said juries with more Black members are less likely to convict people of either race. black or white. And white male jurors are more likely to convict black defendants and less likely whites. So that was interesting statistic. Sad, but anyway, my time is up. I've been off.
Yes, thank you, Bill. That's why I like that article better, because it had the statistics in it. Cheryl, and then the list is open.
Nice to see everyone. Hard to get here on Saturdays sometimes. Interesting article, and I don't really watch the news. I research news, so I appreciate everybody's feed into this. I just looked up the EJI, the Equal Justice Institution, which is Brian Stevenson. I don't know if y'all are familiar with him in Montgomery. He did the Enslavement to Incarceration Museum, which I hope everybody gets to go to. It is, even though it's very sad place to visit at times. It can bring up so much. But he has some good articles that he's just starting to write about this. And so just at eji.org might be a place for us to go where there's some real intelligent feedback for us to look at. Because I do agree with Bill, it's a common day lynching. There's also, I can't even remember the kid's name. I don't even want to say it, but the white kid that shot a couple people just recently, and his trial's been surfacing, right? That's also a vigilante act. And it's not looking good either, even though it was white people that were shot and killed. It's still that same taking justice into your own hands. And I guess that's all. I just wanted to add that. I'll be looking at that site. Because it's about lynching.
Okay, thank you, Cheryl. Phyllis.
Yeah, Cheryl, we did bring up Kyle Rittenhouse at the beginning. And I because the judge has ruled that certain words can't be used to describe the people he shot, such as victim, but they can use words like looter and protester or whatever. But I think that opens the door to appeals and mistrials, that kind of a ruling by a judge. So even if the jury that is picked finds him innocent, I think they can do something to further that along. Because that's the most astounding thing I may have ever heard, that a judge, people who were murdered by somebody in cold blood can't be called victims. I'm like, what? Because of what they were engaged in when, peacefully protesting basically while some random person shot them. So, these are both very troubling cases because the country is, so divided, or seems to be so divided, and there are people who are very violently inclined. And it is scary that if you give them any sort of approval through jury trials, that that they will take that as, a permission. Thank you.
Thank you, Phyllis. Greer. Oh, Lynn, you have a clarifying first?
Phyllis, you said there would be grounds for appeal. Are you feeling optimistic about the appellate process, and especially when things get all the way to the Supreme Court?
Not most days, no. But some part of me is still optimistic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have Greer and then Bill.
It's sort of piggybacking on
And
Phyllis said. To me, this Rittenhouse house is a lot. They've groomed him, put him in a suit, made him look like, oh, this is just an innocent kid. Like when the gentleman who shot up the massage parlors, the sheriff had the audacity to say, oh, he's just having a bad day. And see, that's what happens. Like when I was talking about rich versus poor. This kid had a GoFundMe that had so much money in it. He's probably got the best lawyers money could buy. When the people who only have the state basically defending. It's not only a racial thing, it's a monetary thing, it's a test thing, it's a classism thing. The young man who was raping the young girl behind the dumpster somewhere in California. She happened to be Asian and white. Two guys pulled them off. He raped a drunk woman and got months. A football was convicted and got 25 years. The system is definitely inherently racist, inherently broke, and basically our lives in the hands of jurors, and we pray that they do the right thing. That's it.
All right, thank you, Greer. We have Bill and then Kate.
This points out, when we think about the appeal process, that our justice system is not blind. It's very prejudiced, and whether the appeal goes through or not will be depending on whether it's an Obama judge or a Bush judge or a Trump judge. And I had that personally involved. I was involved in a lawsuit over age discrimination, and we won the first step. And then my lawyer said,
Bill, you're muted for some reason.
I'm sorry. Did you hear the first part of what I said?
Right where your lawyer said, you were at right where your lawyer said.
Yeah, so my lawyer said, because we won the first phase, the case was not thrown out, and we went to discovery, and that was going to be very expensive, even though it was contingency, because I had to cover expenses. And my lawyer said, whether you win or lose, it entirely depends on the judge. I said, there's 3 or 4 judges that you win, and there are 3 or 4 judges that you lose. And when the judge is picked, I can tell you whether you're going to win or lose before the trial starts. And we see that, of course, sadly, with the Supreme Court now. So our justice system is very political, and I don't know how to fix it. But we can't rely on the impartiality of judges at all. And in my case, what we did was we used that to settle, because I didn't want to pick up all the expenses of the depositions. Anyway, that's the sad case of justice in this country.
It is. Thank you, Bill. Kate.
My take on this, there's a video that everybody's being asked to not believe what their eyes are showing. And if the defendants in this case were Black, they would be encouraged not to even go to trial and to take a deal. But because the defendants are white, even though there's a video showing what happened, they're going to trial anyway. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Kate. We have Cheryl and then Greer.
I guess because I'm very moved by this, I want to share. I'm really learning right now because someone mentioned a book that's called The Ledger and the Chain. And because I have interest in Natchez and I live in New Orleans, I'm reading this book, and it's about slave traders. And it's very, very interesting. It's a 2021 book, and it's really nice. The man has dedicated it to his children, because he says, until we know this history really thoroughly, we will not know anything about what we're doing today. And right now I'm really reeling, and maybe all of you are aware of this, but for me to see how much the court system And the offices of like the sheriff or whoever was doing that they housed these people slaves, like they kept them at the jails while they were transporting them. And just to see how incredibly the justice system and the policing system, we've heard this, and I've heard this about them being slave hunters, enslavement hunters, right? I've heard that, but I never realized that they actually lent their jailhouses to transport people. And this has such incredible information. So I think the system itself is just filthy from the very beginning. It never was probably any good.
Okay, thank you, Cheryl. And then Greer.
Yeah, I was just thinking about how, someone said the word plea. And I was reading some articles about how, because of the sentencing, the disparity in sentences, young men and women who happen to get tangled up in jail take pleas. And once you take that plea, you are bound to the system for the rest of your life. Basically, you're branded and they know where you are and what you're doing. When you get paroled, they know where you are and what you're doing, and you're paying to be free. It's all about money. If you look at anything about the aspect, not totally, I mean, it's racism, but everything about it that's wrong is tied to Supermax prison go into rural communities, they automatically get a population increase, which means they get more representation in Washington for people who don't even have the right to vote, which is ridiculous. How are you representing me if you don't consider me a citizen? And even when I get out, I have to, if I'm ever able to get the right to vote, you make it almost impossible. The system swallows you up, never lets you go. And it all begins when you're standing in front of a judge or a jury and you get sent or you're accused of something and you don't even have to have done it. Juries have the power and judges have the power to make an innocent man guilty and a guilty man innocent. And it all depends on which day the wind is blowing. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Greer. We have Pedro.
Sorry about that. I assume you can hear me? Hey, I just had a couple of comments, and I think it's kind of consistent with what Gigi's saying about just the inherent inequities of our justice system. I know in Texas that many years ago, I think in the late 60s or so, any possession of marijuana was a felony, filed as a felony offense, okay? And of course, some white kids would get arrested at the University of Texas and be charged with felony offenses, and their parents would say, well, wait, you can't charge him with felony. It'll ruin his whole future. And eventually, and very quickly, those laws changed. And I'm not suggesting that marijuana should be a felony, but it just shows how wealth and money impacts that deal there. But it's not just there. What we've already seen is that the greater amount of wealth gives you more favorable options. You can go to a jury trial that might cost a lot more money. It will cost you a lot more money to hire an attorney. An attorney is going to charge you a certain amount to get a plea bargain, right? All they got to do is just negotiate the plea and it's done. But if they got to go to trial, they're going to charge you a whole lot more, right? So that I guess a lot of people unable to afford that, to cop pleas for things that maybe they were innocent of. And then finally, in order to correct such a system, it's kind of like healthcare. Everyone should be, there should not be legal representation by paid defense attorneys. Everyone should have a public defender, should have an equal level of defense. And that way, the influences would start balancing out, I think, in that way. But as long, of course, that's not going to happen. But as long as that's not the case, you can be assured that some people have advantages that others don't in the criminal justice system.
Okay, thank you, Pedro. All right, it's 11:02. Okay, and I think we could start the wrap up now. Be advised that for the wrap up, you have 1 minute, except if you haven't spoken, and we have 3 people that have not spoken. And so they can go first and take your full 2 minutes. And so we'll start with Cindy.
Sadly, it's old history that the jury can very easily be biased. I sat on several jury trials, not for death penalties or anything, but smaller, and that person's going to go to jail. There seemed to be a split in the jury room, people that are really activists for justice, make them pay. And that was a little scary, because a lot of these people were young, had made a mistake, and were looking at ruining their life. But that's a heavy weight. But very few people actually sat on juries. I think if you asked all the people 5%, maybe 10%, that needs to change, because more people involved would be more people thinking about the process and making it more fair, perhaps. It's hard to know. It's discouraging. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Jenny?
First of all, an apology. I did not listen to the audio or read the transcript, so I apologize. I will be better in the future. And then sort of humorous, Pedro, I know exactly when the law got changed from a felony to a misdemeanor, because I was busted 22 hours after it. So I was very grateful that it got changed. It was August of 72. So yeah, I was like, okay, good timing. And then I also wanted to thank Cheryl for the Brian Stevenson with EJI. He's amazing, just amazing. So I'm going to definitely read his articles. And this discussion, I'm obviously not too educated on this. I did not realize that it had to be a unanimous verdict. I was feeling, mixed hope, but in spite of Glenn's comments, I'm not feeling hopeful knowing that it has to be unanimous. And I don't know what we can do specific to this. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of things around fighting systemic racism and white supremacy, but I don't know if there's anything to do on this front. So mostly questions, and that's it. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Jenny. Amal?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
It's good to see everybody. I know I've been on a few weeks, but I have been in an area where internet access is lacking, for another way to say that. As far as the trial is concerned, so with these gentlemen, I think that the United States cannot afford another summer like we had with the George Floyd situation. If they let these guys go, and that's a stretch on that if, and Georgia explodes like I know Georgia could,
yeah,
it's going to be serious in the United States, not just in Georgia. Because with the message that'll be sent out is that you can hunt a black man down, which is what this was. They hunted him down. and kill him like a dog and film it. That's the part that I don't hear too many people talking about. This was filmed on purpose. It wasn't an accidental camera situation. They had their camera filming this on purpose. And what would be the message to be sent when you film something like this on purpose? Black men are not welcome to be jogging through here, because if you do, we will come and get you. And you want to know something? Nothing will be done about it. That's the message that's being sent. So if there's no conviction here, that's the message that'll be sent out. And when that message get out, you could rest assured that Georgia will explode. And I don't think the United States can afford another explosion like that, especially after on the wake of the George Floyd summer that we had. So that's all I want to say.
All right, thank you, Amal. Okay. Now we go to, you have 1 minute to make your final thoughts. Marion.
I would like to say to thank you for this article. I don't feel optimistic about these men being convicted. It's a great tragedy that we have this attitude in this country that some lives are not as valuable as others, and I stand by what I said earlier in the discussion. I guess I was just exerting my frustration, but that's how I feel. So I'm being
Marion, I think you froze up. Yeah, you did. Okay, well, thank you for your comments. Marva?
Good topic, article, and at least we discussing current situations, and it invokes our past and hopefully not our future. I'm less than hopeful that a just verdict will be rendered. It all started with the act of vigilantes to the election of judges and judges. Surprised me with a verdict of guilty. Thank you.
Thank you, Marva. Phyllis.
Well, I just want to say another issue that concerns me is if we do not really investigate January 6th and go after the people in the Capitol who were involved in that, and the person who was in the Oval Office at the time, who instigated it. I think we are in grave danger from that too. And it's just occurred to me, can the prosecution, if a person is found innocent, can the prosecution appeal? That might not be something that happens, right? Because people can't be tried twice for the same crime. So if they're found innocent, there's no appeal, I guess. So I take back what I said earlier. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Phyllis. Lynn.
But there is still hope. Yikes. There's still hope, Phyllis. Hopefully, our Attorney General, Garland Merrick, would bring a civil rights case. The people could be tried for deprivation of civil rights. And I hope he's watching that very carefully. And I hope, well, Biden's not going to encourage him to do it because he said he wouldn't interfere in the Justice Department. But I think Garland Merrick would have the will and the ability to bring that case. And I surely would hate to see the country explode into riots, because then the damn right wingers would say it's all Biden's fault. Let's vote for Trump again in 2024. So there are a lot of issues at stake here. When I was a lawyer, my boss used to say, when you have 12 brains together working at a problem, they're smarter than any one brain. And you can trust them to come up with the right answer. Now, in the olden days, that certainly was not correct, because the fix was then not to punish white people. But I'm going to be guardedly hopeful that this jury, so many of those jurors said that video was horrific. They saw the injustice. I'm going to hope, but my backup hope is Garland Merrick.
Okay, thank you. Pedro.
Yeah, if that video is available, if somebody can make that available to us, that'd be great. My closing remarks are just about alluding to kind of what Amal was saying about the explosion that may occur if he's acquitted. And I just want to talk about that in my closing remark, but Malcolm X talked about the misrepresentation of that in these Black neighborhoods and inner city neighborhoods, food costs more, rent costs more, everything costs more. There's more, loan rip-off deals and liquor stores and lottery joints or that type of thing that are per square mile than any other deal. And at the end of the day, when there is injustice, there is no way for poor people to fight back against that injustice, except through these types of explosions, and yet then they are portrayed as lawless looters rather than people that have been wronged and don't have a way out. So anyhow, thank you for the very insightful discussion today.
Thank you, Pedro. Bill?
This case is part of a very disturbing trend I see in our country. And I think Amal, it's great to have you back. And as usual, you put a lot of clarity into the thing. My brain hadn't progressed to the aftermath of the trial. It was still stuck on the trial. But you were absolutely correct. Georgia will explode. And someone said, mentioned the January 6th thing. I just read that at least 10 Republicans who were participated in the rally just got elected to office. And when the Virginia governor was campaigning, the Republican governor, they saluted a flag that had been flown at the insurrection. And a bunch of Republicans are running for governor now on the platform that they will not endorse or sanction the election results if a Democrat wins the presidency. They're saying they won't do it. And so we are headed for a very bad situation in this country. And the right has gotten much more aggressive about breaking the laws and imposing their order on the majority. So thanks for the article. It was very timely and appreciate it.
Thank you, Bill. Jean?
Yes, Washington Post has had a couple of articles about the trial, one of which was analyzing when you had a jury that was skewed with one race or another, and it was not very hopeful, I'm sorry to say. Today there was an article when I got up late, I'm not at my best, and I saw Washington Post has got an article about states' laws that sanction vigilante justice. But I didn't read it because all of a sudden I realized today was Saturday and Erace was on. And so that was there. I think looking at EJI is a wonderful website. I haven't checked it out, but I will. And I appreciate everybody's comments. It's, and the trial, whatever's going on, is just shows how how the racist is so systematic in all our areas, and they should eliminate the peremptory. Anyway, excusing people through peremptory challenges, as Arizona has done. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean. Kate?
Nancy, thanks for bringing the interview to us. It was a very good discussion, and I learned some interesting things, and thanks again.
All right, thank you. Cheryl?
Thank you. Interesting article. Appreciate everyone. I'm really saddened by the opinions of many people that this is not going to go well. And I hope that that's not true, because I do believe that what Amal said is very, very true. And does it do us any good if we write to the judge? No, he
I
can't.
don't think so.
But would it do us any good to write to Garland Merrick? Okay, thank you all. Have a great week.
You too, Cheryl. Thank you. Beatrice?
Thank you for the audio. Our legal system is broken. Our carceral system is broken for some, but it works quite well for others. And we know for whom it works well. Rittenhouse is very disturbing. When I look in that young man's face, the way they present him as young, innocent, this is a marauding vigilante who killed people in just cold blood. And all the money that's been raised with the GoFundMe, and he's been held up as a great citizen. My daughter worked for Brian Stevenson as a young lawyer down in Montgomery, and our Erace group also did a field trip down to the museum. The Merrick Garland, I am so sorry. I have very little. He is trying to be so fair and so generous, and so I'm really concerned, about Merrick Garland. But the other thing, really quickly, does it do any good to write letters? If it may not affect change in the person that you're trying to change, but if you don't try to do something, even if it is a letter or a call to somebody that you think may not change, it changes you. If we ever decide that there's nothing we can do about it, it's just overwhelming, it's awful, it's bad. But this has been a great discussion, and I really love this group, and thank you.
Thank you, Beatrice. Glenn?
Well, being optimistic is good for your health. And also, rioting, if the court case go against us, is idiotic. No one gets hurt more than your race itself. We get extreme punishment from the rioters. They will burn down their own neighborhoods. They will burn down Black businesses. They will loot Black businesses. They will loot their grocery stores, their supermarkets, their department stores that they depend on. What they depend on for work and for their needs. Look at the history. There's been nothing accomplished by the rioters.
Okay.
Wait a minute.
Thank you, Glenn.
What you mean, okay? Thank you, Glenn.
You up?
Oh, all right.
All right, thank you. Okay, and last, Greer.
There's
I
a
can tell
saying.
you don't like what somebody say, you cut them off quick.
Okay, I'll go.
Not really.
Okay. You know, they say that justice is blind, and I've been like scrolling through pictures of justice, and I noticed that most of the renderings of statues are made, there's a little bit of space in that supposed blindfold. So justice isn't blind. It's an extension of the bias of those who are in control. And justice definitely isn't blind, because justice is too precise in who it targets negatively and who it targets positively. That's it.
Thank you, Greer. Okay. I really don't have much to add to what everyone had to say. I can only hope for the best. Hope that the people that were chosen will, you just don't know. I mean, because they're using a self-defense strategy for the defense, which I don't see. It reminds me so much of like Trayvon Martin in a lot of ways. They told you to stay in the car. You get out the car, and then you end up approaching someone who gets the better of you, so you shoot them. The same thing happens. Why didn't you call 911 and stay in your house? Okay. And you go out and approach somebody, they get the better of you, so you shoot. And then you want to plead self-defense when you were the aggressor. So anyway, I don't know how this will play out, but it just doesn't look good, not to me. I'm not optimistic about it. But anyway, thank you everyone for coming. Phyllis, do you have any announcements?